Good afternoon, Wisconsin. Welcome to the show. So very glad to have you with us. Gee, what's going on today? Oh, yes. After a quarter of a century, this is it. Thanks for tuning into my last program on WTMJ. Honest to goodness, I've been trying to figure out what are you going to do on the last show. And a little bit later on in the program, it's part of the ongoing cast of characters from the last quarter century. Some people will be down here. We'll talk to them briefly. But it was like part of me was saying, okay, let's just do a regular show. I'll sit in front of the computer this morning and I'll find different issues and we'll just kind of talk like nothing's going on. And that just did not feel right. I think if I ended up doing that, people would say, okay, this is this guy's last show and this is how he chooses to go out telling us, about Donald Trump or Joe Biden or whatever. So this is going to be, I'm just telling you up front, this is going to be somewhat self-indulgent, but it's my show. And after 25 years, you get, I think, a chance to be a little bit self-indulgent. So we're going to do that. We live stream this if you want to watch it. And yesterday, we pretty much broke the internet with a number of people who did. You can go to WTMJ.com, click the Watch Live button, or alternatively, you can go to YouTube and put in WTMJ. To my left, to your right as you're watching this, we've got a bunch of the balloons from the party the other night. People have been so incredibly kind. If you follow us on Twitter, for me, it's at Jeff Wagner Radio. Lots of different postings and chants, and they've got the remarks I made at our formal going away party on Wednesday, and I'll probably reiterate some of that. But this next 3 hours is going to be my way of saying thank you for a quarter century of listening, and it's meant more to me than I can possibly tell you that you've shared this with me. And I've been overwhelmed, and that's the honest to goodness truth. I've been overwhelmed with the kind remarks and things. Mike Spalding, our assistant program director, just gave me this stack of cards and letters that have been coming in, and I just don't have a chance to get to them. But I've been swamped with the emails and the texts. Jeff, wanted to wish you good luck on your final day and thank you for many memories. I'm 23 years old. I bring this up because I know there's this image that's out there that nobody under the age of 40, 50, 60 listens to talk radio, and that's just flat out not true. What we find, and one of the things that's been most rewarding to me over the years, is the multi-generational listeners. I have lots and lots of folks who maybe they started listening because their parents were listening, and they were trapped in the car with mom and dad who were listening to the Wagner program, and they grew up listening to the Wagner program, and now their kids are around. Jeff, wanted to wish you good luck on your final show. Thank you for the memories. I'm 23 years old, originally from Sheboygan, and some of my earliest memories are listening to you on the radio with my mom as she drove me around during the summers. When I moved to Missouri and Washington, D.C. for college, you were a way to stay in touch with local news and southeastern Wisconsin culture. I moved to Madison to work in the state capitol this past year. Didn't have any family or friends here. It was a rough couple months. I often felt very lonely. Listening to your podcast after work felt like hanging out with a friend. My ears always perk up when I hear you discuss state political issues. Love to hear your thoughts on what we're doing for better or worse. Over the last year, my grandmother was going through a rough stretch of health, but always still listens to you. I try to text or call her every couple days, and we often discuss your show. You've been an important voice in my life for over 15 years. I don't know what I'll do without you. My girlfriend probably won't miss me hearing her say, well, Jeff Wagner says, anytime we discuss basically any topic. So that's from Connor. Thank you very much. And that's this kind of multi-generational thing, and it means more to me than I could possibly say. Jeff, I'm a city bus driver, currently sending this to you from the inside of a Milwaukee County Transit bus, parked at a layover, of course. I've been listening to you on and off for over 20 years, and I particularly enjoy your topics about reckless driving, the HOP, bus rapid transit, and commuter trains. You always have a thought-provoking discussion, and I will say you are half correct on mass transit. Laugh out loud. Listen to the beginning of your show, usually daily before work. Catch the rest on my bicycle ride home from work on the podcast. I almost feel like I'm having a conversation with you, even though I've never called in, and text only occasionally. When news breaks, I'm often curious to see if you'll talk about it or what your take will be. When I heard the news about you retiring, there was a sadness that hit me. Hearing you read some of the emails that you've read from fans, listeners, helps me realize why I felt the sadness. Although I'm only 44 years old, I live alone, and my line of work can be rather isolating at times, and I don't get out much anymore with friends and family, so you offered me some form of companionship. Thanks for being a part of my life. Well, thank you for letting me be a part of your life. I mean, I've told this story on multiple times. And by the way, we're going to recycle some stories, and we're going to name drop, and we're going to do things like that, because there's a lot of people I have to thank for the last 25 years, and I would be remiss if I ended this program without doing it. So it is going to be name dropping and things like that. But it's the special thing about this medium, and she's a lady, the female bus driver just kind of alludes to this. It's the connection that radio has. I remember as a kid, and this is before the internet was invented and things like that, I can remember, sitting at home with a little transistor radio, and at night you'd dial up and you'd hear these big AM stations, and, you'd hear voices from Cincinnati or wherever it was, and you'd hear these voices that were there. And it's this personal thing. I mean, you're sitting in your bedroom and you don't want mom and dad to hear that you're not asleep, that you've got the radio up to your ear and things like that. And you'd hear these voices talking about these different issues. And it's like they're talking to you. It's this personal relationship. And I'm sorry, you don't get that from anywhere else. I mean, TV is wonderful. I always say you recognize people from TV. Hey, you're that guy on Channel 4 that does the 3 o'clock news. Yeah, but they know you from radio. And to be able to make a living in my hometown in essentially the same time slot for 25 years has been such a blessing. And it is the connection that I feel for you. And if you feel something similar, that's just great. It's the wonderful thing about radio. All right, when we come back, I have a long list of thank yous, name dropping, and things like that. We're going to start doing that in just a bit. Stick around. This is Jeff Wagner, WTMJ.
Congratulations to Jeff Wagner on a quarter century of airtime on Newsradio 620 WTMJ. During that time, he helped get rid of crooked politicians after the Milwaukee County pension scandal, pushed back against liberals who wanted to let criminals out of prison early, and along the way, he kept listeners in southeastern Wisconsin well-informed as well as absolutely entertained. Jeff's also an active member in the community. He's a longtime member of the Milwaukee Armed Forces Week Committee and personally led a WTMJ Cares initiative, speaking with cancer patients, doctors, nurses, and researchers about their experience to help raise awareness about cancer screenings. Jeff Wagner is an icon in Wisconsin. Jeff, Tonette and I wish you all the best in your retirement, and we look forward to seeing you at next year's Armed Forces dinner.
I haven't heard any of these, so this is nice. They're trying to. I think people are trying to get me to break down here over the next 2.5 hours. By the way, we are breaking the internet now. If you want to watch the last show, you can go to WTMJ.com and stream it live. I got my this is a tie I bought for my wedding. So I was able to. Fran did not say, okay, you can't wear that particular tie and stuff. So you can check that at WTMJ.com or YouTube TV WTMJ. Jeff, I've been okay. This is okay. Where's the one I wanted to hear? Let's see. I moved here in the fall of 1998. I listened to 620 almost every day for that length of time. Didn't realize that you started at TMJ about the same time I started listening. So we've spent the last 25 years together in an entertaining and informative way. Best wishes to you in your retirement. Jeff, when my daughter was about 3 or 4 years old, she got a teddy bear that she absolutely adores. When I asked what she was going to name him, she immediately said Jeff Wagner, because that's who Mom listens to on the radio every day. She's 18 years old, and she still loves the bear. Happy retirement. Best wishes on your future. How cool is that? Jeff, I'm going to, let's see, we're getting so many texts, they kind of flash on me. Jeff, I'm going to miss the pajama or pajama-gram commercials. I used to make fun of you until you talked me into buying some for my wife. They're the best thing I ever gave her for a present. Jeff, I'm 54. I've been listening to TMJ since I was a teen as I drove my parents to and from work. Today I listen to you and WTMJ all day long. So yes, parents have handed down the daily entertainment. Jeff, I'm listening to the last show while I'm golfing with my wife in Watoma. Congratulations. I think that's absolutely outstanding as well. It's just Jeff, is a joke at the end of the show. You should have a meme showing your head exploding. Well, no, we don't want to. we don't want to do. We don't want to do that necessarily. I think I've been able to get through all this without the head exploding, and that's that's been just a great thing that's going on. All right, so I only have a little bit of time. I want to start to say thank you to people, and I'm going to drop some names. And I'm going to tell some stories. So bear with me. One of the questions I always get is, how did you get started in radio? I mean, you're a lawyer, you're a federal prosecutor. How did you do this? And there is a life lesson. I just picked up a phone. 1994, I'd left the U.S. Attorney's Office, ran for state attorney general in what turned out to be one of the really, really lucky things in my life. I didn't win that race. And I always say thank you to all the people who voted for me in 1994. But it's funny how stuff works out because, all right, so after that race ended, I'm back. I'm in the private practice of law. I'd been in the U.S. Attorney's Office for 12 or 13 years. And, one day, and sometime in 1995, I pick up the phone and I called the program director at the station up the dial. And I said, hey, at the time they had a morning show and they had an afternoon show. And I thought that they might be looking for some people to fill in. And so I said, hey, interested in anybody filling? I'm kind of interested in this, in just doing this for fun. And back then they were always looking for excuses to take people out to lunch. They took me out to lunch and they tried out about 5 or 6 people. And I happened to be the guy that stuck. And so for a couple years, 95, 96, 97, and into 98, I did fill-in shows, morning or afternoon, maybe 20 shows a year, maybe a couple more than that, sort of to learn this. So then in the summer of 1998 or late spring, and he doesn't remember this, but I do. Steve Wexler, who has been who's been as instrumental as anybody in my career, and I want to say a very special thank you right off the start. Steve Wexler was the program director at WTMJ. He calls me up and says, look, here's the deal. Charlie Sykes is getting ready to take a sabbatical to write a book. And we'd like to hire you to come over and to fill in for him. And I said, okay, that's great. And then what happened was Wexler got promoted. They moved him out of Milwaukee to Tucson, I think, to run the stations at the time that we had in Tucson. And so everything was on hold for a little bit. And then what happened is Steve's replacement, a guy named Rick Belcher, who we'll get to in a minute, calls me up and says, okay, we want to hire you to do this. And so we cut this deal. They actually gave me a contract. So I would do a Saturday show, and then I'd be the fill-in for Charlie. So that's how we started in the summer of 1998. I think my first week was out at State Fair. It was kind of like, that's cool. But to this day, I remember how cool it was to go into that radio station at Radio City and open the microphone. So anyhow, I did that for a couple months. And what had happened was WTMJ had a syndicated show. Laura Schlesinger, remember Dr. Laura, Preach, Teach, Nag about family values? Well, that was on from noon until 3. And TMJ had tried some local hosts before that, and it never had worked out. But anyhow, what happened is in November, I think the syndicator, for whatever reason, pulled the Laura Schlesinger show, and I think a lot of management would say that was the best thing that ever happened to them. And so they came to me and they said, hey, you want to do this? And I went to my wife, my late wife Sue, and I said, well, what do you think? And most women would have said, wait a second, you want to stop practicing law and you want to go try this radio thing? But Sue, God bless her, said, yeah, if you want to do it, just do it. Try it out. And so we did. And I thought I was going to do it for a year or two, and a year or two has turned into 25 years. It's just been amazing. But Steve Wexler was instrumental in that. And then a few years later, Steve came back and became the general manager at WTMJ, and through a long list of different responsibilities. He has been my boss for decades, actually, and he's been kind enough to continue to employ me and to give me advice on things, which he continues to do till this day. And even though Steve is no longer, I think he's now stepped down as like what I would say the market man. They call it market manager. It's a general manager job. He's stepped down and he's doing his own radio coaching and thing. We remain extremely close, but he's really been very instrumental in my career and actually preserving my career. And I want to just do a shout out. I don't know how many of you know this, but for the last couple of years, there were a period of time where I worked remotely from Florida for like 10 or 11 weeks, and Steve had to sign off on that, and he hated it. He thought, he just thought, it's not that I don't think you can do the show remotely, but I think it's important to be in the studio all the time. And I understand both sides of it, but he signed off on it for 2 years to allow me to do that and prolong my career for a couple of years. And Steve Wexler has been instrumental in this career, and I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge that. He was the guy that signed the contracts, and he was the guy that took the phone calls from people complaining, oh, I can't believe you got that Wagner guy on the air, or do you know what Jeff said, or whatever. But he's really just been instrumental to me, and I wish him absolutely the best moving forward. So, I'm name dropping here, but this is my chance to do it. When I started when this company, WTMJ, was part of Journal Communications. And at the time, Journal Communications was the radio and TV groups. We had WTMJ TV, WTMJ Radio in Milwaukee, and then we owned radio and TV stations all across the country. And then another division was the newspaper, Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel, and then there was a printing press. So it was really interesting. And when I started, the president of the company was Steve Smith, who he and his wife Mary have become just great friends of mine, and some managers, Doug Keel and Carl Gardner, who had the vision, I guess, to hire me and the vision to not fire me over the first couple of years as we were trying to develop an audience. And then various general managers, and you might hear from one or two of them today. John Schweitzer, my first general manager, who remains an outstanding friend of mine today. Tom Land, who passed away a number of years ago but was outstanding, and then Tom Langmeyer more recently, who was outstanding, at least to me, treated me extremely well. And all these people were my bosses, and I know I caused them a lot of grief over the years. I knew, you do these topics and they're going to get calls from this person or that person, and always they were just like, okay, this is cool, whatever you want to do, Jeff, you do it, we trust you, and that's great. When we come back, we continue to name names. Stick around.
Jeff Wagner, Scott Warris here. Congratulations on your retirement. 25 years at WTMJ. Obviously, I will look back fondly at the time that we spent together and I was producing for you or sharing a microphone as a host at TMJ alongside you. I never said this to you at the time. Now's my last chance, I guess. First, thank you for how you helped me. And secondly, all these years, from the bottom of my heart, I really, truly believe it should have been either Pajama-gram or Pajama-gram, but not Pajama-gram, or for that matter, Pajama-gram. And that feels really good to get off my chest. Merry Christmas to you, Fran, and the family. And again, congratulations, Jeff.
That's just outstanding. Jeff, let's see. I'm a 52-year-old listener in Oshkosh who's listened to you for many, many years while at work, running errands, when picking the kids up from school when they were little. Appreciate your views. Thanks so much. Well, thank you as well. Jeff, good luck to you. My brother, who I lost 6 years back, said, always listen to Jeff Wagner. He really makes sense. Well, that's good. That's good. That's good, solid advice. By the way, one of the questions I'm getting a lot is, what's going to happen when you leave? And here, I'll tell you all I know. I'm going to tell you truthfully. I think the station's going to use the opportunity of my departure for, I think, a little bit of re-imaging. And so, but none of us know exactly what that's going to be. That the short-term plan is for the next couple weeks, they will be playing best of Jeff Wagner episodes. And then after the first of the year, I think there's going to be a little bit of a fill-in, and then I think that the permanent lineup is going to roll out in sometime in early to mid-January. So that's, I think, that's one of the things that's going to happen. But I don't know for sure. Now, what am I going to do? That's one of the questions we always get as well. And how can we get in touch with you? Well, I'm still going to be a presence on Twitter. It's at Jeff Wagner Radio on Twitter. In addition, the WTMJ has been very, very kind to allow me to. I'm going to keep my email address here. So J Wagner at Good Karma Brands. That's still going to be good for, I think, the foreseeable future. I promised my bosses that I wouldn't send out like nasty emails to the company and things like that, so they're letting me do that. I also have a personal email that I'll put up on the Twitter account, but it's jeffwagnerradio@yahoo.com, and that's the personal email that I use. So I'll be around, and I don't know exactly what I'm going to do. As I said when I announced my retirement, I promised my wife that I'm just going to take a little bit of time and not do anything. And my immediate plans are to chase her, my little dog, and golf balls through the Florida sunshine for a bit. And then we'll figure it out. I'm considering I might do some fill-in work across the country, the technology stuff. And while I don't really want to do a 3-hour-a-day, 5-day-a-week program, there might be opportunities to fill in. So that's why I say you follow me on Twitter, and I'll try to keep you posted. But you might be driving from Austin to El Paso, and you hear this voice that sounds familiar, telling the old stories to a new audience. It might be me, or Las Vegas to Los Angeles, or upstate New York, or wherever. You never know where you might find me, and so I'm considering doing that, and then some other options as well. All right, I want to continue. These are my thank yous. You cannot do what I do for a living without having good producers. And one of the funny things about all this is, people will always say how important are the producers. They're key, because the producers are the folks that make you sound good. They're the ones that do the imaging. I mean, if you see, I sit in front of this board, and I've got all these different buttons to push, and everybody will bring in tour groups and say, oh, look at all those buttons. I'm only allowed to push 4 in the case of an emergency. It's the producers that do all that. And so it's more than just answering the phones and things like that. And I have been blessed over the years to have had wonderful producers. My first full-time producer was, and if you go back to the beginning, he worked for me for 6, 7, 8 years, young Dan Walsh, who I still am very proud to call a friend, and he was great. And then had Elise Danneman, who was the divine Mizzy. She's, I think, in Georgia right now. She just reached out to me. So, I mean, I've been able to I'm actually very proud of this, that I've been able to, maintain connections with my former producers over the years who felt that it was a good enough experience that, 20 years later they still reach out. So I just exchanged emails with Elise today. And then Amber Noldemeyer. And Amber works for Good Karma Brands right now. She stopped producing my show years ago and works in our traffic department, which is the people that schedule the commercials. And then Eric Crowbar Brooks was my producer for a number of years. He went on to become a program director here, and we'll talk about that in a minute. And then, Vince Hondo Figueroa, who worked for me for several years, and then, Kyle Paczynski. Kyle was Gru. And then some of my more recent producers, we have Samantha, and we have Aaron, who's producing now, and we have Charlie Snell. And Charlie, you have paid me the highest compliment. And if you are watching this, I encourage you to do this, because I think this is the first time, at least that I have seen, Charlie wear a suit.
I wore it once for picture day.
Okay, all right. I might have missed that.
But I couldn't think about what to give you, so I figured I'll wear a suit. That'll work.
It is the and now you're on the live streaming thing as well. I mean, I remember when we interviewed you, because you're from Illinois, and I remember when we did your job. How many years ago was that? About 3?
Oh, it was a year and a half ago. It wasn't that long.
It wasn't. Oh, it's the time just flies.
It does.
But I remember when we did the interview and stuff. And I thought, this you had a passion for radio and stuff, but you weren't dressed up in a suit and tie when we did our interview.
Nope. I just wore a regular kind of dress shirt, I'm sure. I hope they didn't look too much like a slob. I don't remember.
Well, you got the job.
Well, I did get the job, thankfully.
So that's the only thing. But I mean, I thought, oh my gosh, when I came in, I saw Charlie is wearing a suit, and you're doing that for me. That is the highest compliment. And you can be honest, because this is my last show. I mean, you don't have to be particularly nice to me. I mean, it's not anything I can do. But what was it like? What is it like to be the producer, and how was it to start out your producing career, at least here at WTMJ, doing the Wagner Show?
I mean, I don't want to say it was scary. I'd never done talk radio. I was very unfamiliar with talk radio. I'd heard of Rush Limbaugh and what have you, but it was pretty simple. Hit the music, take the calls, and especially at Pop Culture Corner, I realized what an audience you had. And, when, at the end of the year, when you're top 3, it's just like, whoa. this guy's legit, and I'm just happy to be a part of that, even if I think I wasn't doing the most.
Oh no, that's not true. And I've told you how much I appreciate what everybody does. And you, like for example, last year when I was working from Florida remotely for like 10 or 12 weeks, it's hard on everybody. It's hard on the engineers. Believe it or not, it's hard on me just for the stuff. But it's particularly hard on the producer because you're just on because a lot of even these buttons that I get to push nowadays, I can't push it. It's all on you, and you just did an admirable job with that.
I tried. I just want to. It was an experience because I had to do that for 3 months, and honestly, I was going to bring it up, but I wasn't sure if I was allowed to. But it is your last day. We can, get the cat out of the bag, and it does remind me though. I'd never actually seen Sasha, but I have heard Sasha just when we had to do recordings before the show, and she would just be yapping. You just go, Sasha, 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 Sasha.
well, that was it. Because what happened is when we were working remotely. My wife will be here later on, but she'll tell you she loves Sasha. Sasha loves her, but it's my dog, and she's been my dog since I got her when she was 6 weeks old. We got her when my first wife got diagnosed with cancer, and so Sasha was just a godsend during our cancer year, and after that as well. But in our place in Florida, we have a 3-bedroom, 3-bathroom condo, and my office is at one end of the condo. But if I was trying to be on the air and you try to shut the door and stuff, that wasn't going to work. The dog would be there. So we'd have to figure out ways to like keep her, confined to the other side of the room because, what would happen is she'd be there and, you're trying to be reasonably professional about this and you don't, and if the doorbell would ring or something, she'd just be barking and all. So we were trying to keep that undercover that I was necessarily, I wasn't necessarily in the studio, but now with the cameras, you couldn't get away with that.
Oh, yeah. Also, Greg Matzik leaked it to you once in Crosstalk, and I was just like, oh, I don't want that.
That's okay, but it all worked out. But I'm going to collectively do this to all the people who helped produce the show, but I'm going to do it through you. I wanted to say to everybody how much I appreciated all the things that you guys and gals did to make me sound good, because I understand sometimes that's a challenge, and I know I used to drive you all. I know I used to drive you and others crazy when we're out at State Fair, because I figure if we're going to be out at State Fair and people are kind enough to stand there and watch the show, what I want to do is I'm going to go out during the breaks and I'm going to thank them and do stuff like that. And of course, we have live reads that we have to do and these things, or the show's getting ready to start, and I know you're back in the studio going, okay, we got 10 seconds left. Jeff?
And without the cameras, I don't even know where you are.
That's right. Is he there? Whatever. But to you, Charlie, to Aaron, to Samantha, to all the folks who have helped me sound good and have screened the calls and have put up with my occasional looks like, I always say this, Charlie, to people who say, I wonder how that particular call got on the air. And I should say, you should hear the calls that don't get on the air. And they're the ones that the producers are taking care of and going, well, thanks, I'll pass that on.
I hear one swear at, nope, you're gone.
Well, that's good. So, Charlie, I want to wish you the best of luck, and collectively to all the people who produced the show, best of luck. And thanks for all you've done. I appreciate it more than you can know. And thank you for dressing up. That means seriously, more than I can tell. I thought Charlie's wearing a suit for me, for goodness sakes. You're the best.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. Back with more in just a minute. This is Jeff Wagner.
Those of you that don't know, I produced Jeff's show for 3 years, and it was such a transformative and educational experience working with him. Jeff, you taught me so much about the business and showed me the ropes. You helped me understand how to serve your dedicated listeners across Wisconsin. You're more than just a radio host to a lot of people, including me. And many of us can never thank you for the joy and entertainment that you brought into our lives for so many years, both on great days and in days that we will never forget. You'll be dearly missed, but I know Fran and your family cannot wait to have you around more often. Though I somehow know there are more Wagner's rules of life to be learned in retirement. Cheers, buddy, and congratulations.
Eric, after he left us, he went on to work at one of the big news stations in San Francisco, and now he's writing. And it's wonderful. But that brings me to, I'm doing acknowledgments and things, and I'm dropping some names and trying to tell some stories. But it's my chance to say thank you. I talk to people who've had careers in radio I mean, long-time careers, and mine, this is really like my second act, because I was a lawyer before that. But I talk to people in radio, and sometimes people, some of my friends who are like radio veterans say, I'm really not a professional radio guy because I've never been fired. Because what happens in this business is people get fired all the time. And a lot of times you're not fired because you weren't doing a good job or whatever. What happens is there'll be a transition. A new program director comes in. And the new program director has people that he or she likes and wants to hire. And so, you find yourself being called in on Friday afternoon and given your box of future endeavors, that banker's box, and walked out the door through nothing, no fault of your own. It's just kind of the vagaries. It's the way the business works. And I was just counting up in anticipation of this. I've worked with 9 program directors, 9 here at WTMJ. And somehow, through all of those program directors, I have managed to survive. My first program director who hired me, along with the general manager, John Schweitzer, a guy named Rick Belcher, who just helped me develop my career and was very, very patient with me as they were kind of working with me to learn how to do talk radio. And then after Rick, there was Tom Parker, who went on to a very, very successful career at some other stations in the Milwaukee market. My friend Joe Shalfa, who was at the retirement party the other night, who I still see. Eric Crowbar Brooks, who started out as a producer for me. So for some people who think that, okay, working as a producer is a dead-end job, he became the program director. And then my dear friend Brad Lane, who is now the program director at WCCO in Minnesota, and just today was recognized as one of the top 20 program directors in the nation by Barrett News Service. And then Ryan McGuire, who I just had dinner with him. Ryan is an executive at Westwood One now. He's the assistant program director, but he's really program director, Mike Spalding. And then in the interim, again, Tom Langmeyer, who I mentioned, who was like doing double duty as program director and general manager for a while, and the late Tom Land. I learned things from all of them, and I always try to approach stuff with an open mind and how do you want to do stuff, and interesting thing is the deal that we always had was I tell you what. I just want to do my radio show and I want to keep getting paid for it, okay? And that's the deal was always that's what we're going to let you do. And I appreciate that freedom. I know there's some stations where people are constantly micromanaged, and you get called in after your show and you have like an hour recap and you have to explain why you discussed things or why you chose this topic or that or why you approached it. I never had that. I never had to defend or justify things. I always had program directors who trusted me and allowed me the flexibility and the freedom to do this. And I appreciate that more than you can possibly know. The Final Wagner Show rolls on in just a minute.
Congratulations to Jeff Wagner for 25 years at WTMJ Radio, informing the public and telling the truth. Jeff's unwavering commitment to conservative principles and his ability to effectively convey them has had a big and lasting impact. I certainly wish you all the best in your well-deserved retirement, Jeff. Your voice will be missed.
You have clips from the beginning. And actually, I asked about that. Not sure how I would have felt about it, but our records, for whatever reason, only go back to about 2007. So as a matter of fact, to put together the best of, which is actually, I'm kind of looking forward to listening to some of this, maybe, over the course of the next couple of weeks. A number of our news people were signed and producers were signed. Okay, go back and pick out stuff from different years. And they worked very, very hard on doing that. It's not just, hey, we're going to replay a show from like 2 weeks ago or things like that. So a lot of work went into it. But I think we only, for whatever reasons, our archives only go back to 2007. I do, somewhere in my basement, I have cassette recordings from a couple of my first shows back in like 1995. I mean, before I was at WTMJ. And I at one point in time, I thought, okay, maybe I'll dig these out and bring them back for the end. But I remember them being painful to listen to like in 1997. I don't think they've gotten any less painful to listen to over the years. One of our texters said, why the nickname for producers? And I thought it was being clever. I thought it created a mystique. What does Crowbar look like? And that I get that question all. Oh, you're young Dan, etc. What does Hondo look like? All those different things. And it's kind of created a mystique. And especially since in many cases the nicknames that I gave to people didn't match their physical characteristics. Eric Brooks is not somebody that you look immediately and say, hey, that's a guy that's nicknamed Crowbar. So I thought I was being clever. Maybe I was a little bit too clever by half, but it was just a lot of fun. All right, we are naming names. We're thanking people as the last show rolls on. One of the things that I have learned over the years, and I've kind of mellowed, because the single most important person or people in connection with a radio show, it's not the host, and it's not the news people, and it's not really the producers. It's the engineers, because they keep us on the air. And in the very beginning, I used to be, what do you mean we're off the air? Or what do you mean there's this problem? And I used to kind of get aggravated. And then I realized that this isn't helping, because me being aggravated that we're not on the air is not helping. So I've really mellowed over the years. But I have been so fortunate to work with just a great number of engineers, and I can't name them all because time doesn't permit, but our two current engineers, my dear friends John Tyler and Scott Pfeiffer, who have kept me on the air for decades now, and have really moved heaven and earth to do that, together with my dear friend Glenn Bowman, who retired from WTMJ a number of years back. But I mean, when I think back on all the engineers and all how much you did, and I want to say this publicly, I apologize if I was a jerk once in a while going, okay, we're out here at State Fair. What do you mean we're not on the air? I apologize. I got better over time, and I appreciate everything you've done. All right, when we come back after the top of the hour, we're going to continue to name names. We might take some more of your phone calls. This is it. A quarter century just goes by in a blink of the eye. Jeff Wagner, WTMJ. Welcome back to the show. So glad to have you with us. We're blowing up the internet. If you want to see the last show, you can, in addition to listen to it, you can go to WTMJ.com, hit the watch live button, or YouTube and WTMJ. We're going to have some guests coming in. My lovely wife is floating around here somewhere. We're going to get her in before the program ends, and some other folks as well. I'm hearing from so many people that I've worked with over the years. Tom Carr. Remember Tom Carr? Tom Carr, before there was Debbie Loziga. There was Tom Carr, who did traffic on WTMJ for the longest time. All the best to you, Jeff. Always love talking with you. Enjoy the next phase of the show. As the old saying goes, you are one of the great ones. I don't know about that, but it's just, it's just absolutely, wonderful to hear from this. Jeff, you are in stereo. I'm a truck driver currently getting my stuff out of the tractor after a long week. There's a service truck here. After I turned on a bit to hear, he had done the same. That's absolutely incredible. And that's the thing. We're hearing from people from all over, and it means more to me than I could possibly say. We don't get to stay on the air we don't get to stay on the air without advertisers and our salespeople. That's the thing, and there's just too many advertisers over the years to thank for supporting us and supporting my program in particular, and just all our wonderful salespeople that I've worked with. And I was starting to make a list, and it was getting too long. That would have been 20 minutes or so. But it has been my pleasure to work with all these great dedicated salespeople over the years, and they're always selling. For example, one of my very, very favorite salespersons is my friend Bob, who is going to be retiring in about a month or so, and who lives his place is a little bit south of where mine is, so it's the last show. Bob comes up to me and says, "Hey, good, have a good time on the last show and stuff. And by the way, can you give me a free mention of something that's going on?" And I said, "You're asking me to do a free ad on the last day of my show?" And he said, "Well, yeah. So, Bob, this is my present to you. Join the Salvation Army in 620 WTMJ for a festive celebration tomorrow, this Saturday. Local brass and percussion players will fill the air with the magic of Christmas music at the annual Big Brass Blast. Come on down to the 3rd Street Market Hall. That's where I am right now in downtown Milwaukee on December 16th from noon to 1 p.m. Big Brass Blast is free and open to the public. Donations at the event will support the Salvation Army's Red Kettle campaign. See, there it is. And I mean, I just love it. It's the last show, and got the salespeople saying, "Hey, will you do something for free for me?" Yes, it is my pleasure to do that. Over the years, it's been an honor to work with real radio legends, and I mean that. One of the things for those of you who have listened to WTMJ, whether it's for 5 years or for 25 years or 50 years or whatever, this is what is called in the industry a legacy radio station, a heritage radio station. It's been a part of people's lives forever. I mean, it was a part of my life growing up. And one of the things that I still remember vividly when I first started here in the summer, part-time, in the summer of 1998, I would walk into this studio, where studios were on Radio City on Capitol Drive, and I think, my goodness, I'm sitting in this chair, and I'm talking in this microphone that true radio legends spoke at. And it's been an honor to have worked with these people. And one of the things that's just been so amazing is people could not have helped me if people didn't have to help me, because, okay, here's this guy, he's a lawyer, he's coming in, he wants to play radio and all these things. People didn't have to go out of their way to help me, but to a person, people did. And I've always remembered that. I mean, Gordon Hinckley, who is a radio legend. I mean, Gordon Hinckley was kind of wrapping up his career as I was starting mine, but he became a friend and a confidant, and I never got tired of listening to Gordon's stories. And I'm thinking about the lineup when I started. Let me take you down memory lane. The great Rob Edwards, he was the host of Wisconsin's Morning News, and we had Sherry Preston, who has gone on to an outstanding career for ABC News in New York. And Mark Reardon, who after he left WTMJ went to his hometown of St. Louis and continues to have a very, very successful talk show to this day. And that was the morning show. And then, over time, we had John Belmont, who did, John Belmont was on the air on 9/11. And the job he did that day, immortalized him, in my opinion, in radio history. And after John Belmont, we had Ken Herrera. And then, of course, on the afternoon show, you had the legendary Jonathan Green, who remains a friend of mine to this day, and our Phil Cianciola, who's still, doing radio up in central Wisconsin. And then we had the sports guys. You had Jim Irwin, and you had Bill Michaels, and you had Len Casper. It showed an example of what a small town this is, and what a small community is. Okay, so Len Casper, you might remember, was our sports guy, and Len always wanted to get into baseball broadcasting, and he got the opportunity. He left WTMJ. He went to Florida and did, I think, TV for the Florida Marlins, and then he came back and he was on TV for the Chicago Cubs for years, and now he does White Sox broadcasts. But in the small world category, Len is married to Pam. Pam's dad, over the last decade or so, who passed away 2 months ago, I miss him to this day, but Pam's dad, Mark, became a very, very close friend of mine. And it's just kind of the small world sort of category that's there. And at Mark's funeral, I got an opportunity to catch up with Len and Pam. But, we talked about the WTMJ days and how, things transpire. But again, it shows what a small community this is. And then, I mean, some of the other names, James T. Harris. Remember James T. Harris? For those of you who are longtime listeners, James is a very, very successful talk show host. He's got he's in the market in both Tucson and in Phoenix, and he got his start here. He called into our shows. He called into Charlie's show. He called into my show, and he used that as a way to. Now he's, like I say, an incredibly successsul talk show host on his own. And then more recently, my dear friend Gene Miller, who we've been exchanging notes to, who's just a radio legend and one of the nicest guys you can possibly imagine. Gene is as authentic. If you listen to Gene on the radio and you think, oh, this guy's really a nice guy, he is, because he is a nice guy. And of course, I talk about my friend Charlie Sykes all the time, and I've said this over the last couple of days, and I can't say it enough. In an industry where there's a lot of ego and lots of people are afraid that next person is going to take their job, and it's difficult sometimes for people to want to help, some of the other people that are on the station, like I say, because lots of people are insecure. Charlie could not have been better to me. When I started here as his temporary fill-in, he was, I think, instrumental in helping me get the full-time gig. He did everything he could to promote me, using me as a guest on his Sunday TV show, using me as the guest host when he wasn't around. I appreciate that more than you can imagine because, again, in this industry, that's not something that happens all the time. And I think a lot of people can say that. And then, of course, some of my current teammates that you hear on the air, some of the old school TMJ, Eric Bilstat, who I said this privately, I'll say it publicly. He's done a lot of the imaging and the nice Jeff Wagner farewell stuff. Eric's been here about 20 years. It has been my distinct pleasure to watch him grow as a radio personality and things like that. I think he's got a bright career ahead of him. Same thing is true for my friend Greg Matzik, who started out as a part-time producer, and produced for my show on Saturdays. He remembers that, and then produced for the Greenhouse, and now he's doing just about everything there is to do. And Greg is an incredible talent as well. And Justin Garcia, who has been around for 20 years as well. You hear Justin on Buck's broadcast and things of the like. And of course, Vince Vitrano, who replaced Gene, who's doing a great job, and my dear friend John McCure, who took over. I mean, you want to talk about big shoes to fill. He took over for Jonathan Green and has not missed a beat. And, John's been just a key component for the success we've had. And the best part is I get to work with all these great people. I get to work with all these great people. And my big bosses at Good Karma, whether it's our owner, Craig Karmazin, or Emily Dillinger, or Greg Descalzo, who've been the general managers, who've been just so wonderful to me over the last 5 or 6 years that Good Karma has owned this. And it's just have let me, I'm sure sometimes biting their tongues, but have let me do the show that I wanted to do. That is a freedom in this industry that you are just so blessed to have. And we've done it because they trusted me, but because you listened to the show. And I'm just so grateful for all of this. And again, they just told me today that let me keep the email address and kind of stay on sort of as an unpaid part-time teammate. So we'll keep the email address, and we'll continue to in that way be part of the station. And they don't have to do that, but they did, and I appreciate that very much. So I know going through this list, there's so many people that have been instrumental in helping me over the years, at least at the WTMJ side, that I've forgotten or I didn't mention. And I'm sorry about that, but I appreciate all of you. And those of you who are listening to this program, I appreciate that as well. All right. The final show rolls on in just a moment.
This is Jonathan Green, formerly of The Greenhouse, there on WTMJ. I retired a lot of years ago. And let me tell you, retirement is tough. I heard that you were going to retire. I advise against it. I suggest you work for 15 or so more years and then maybe consider retiring. It's so tough out here. But if you don't take my advice and you do decide to retire, I wish you well. It's been great knowing you and it was great working with you. And it's also just great being here on the radio once again. So long, buddy. How's that without a script? Okay, guys, start the golf cart. I'm done.
Okay, here's my John Green. There's many John Green stories, but one of my John Green stories is it's State Fair, and they've now redesigned. For those of you who've seen us out at State Fair, they've now reworked the booth and things like that. But there's this little back area that we use as a staging thing, and there was the same carpet that was on this floor. Well, it was on there for 20 years that I was there, and it was probably on there for 20 years before I started. It was disgusting. So one day, I'm doing my show, and John was on after my show, and so he had come out there with his family and all, and I walk into the back after I'm done, and John is like laying flat on this disgusting carpet on the floor with his eyes closed, and I thought he'd had a heart attack. I thought and I'm thinking, okay, what do we do here? Well, it was hot, and he was laying down. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I thought I saw Jonathan Green dead. No, not at all. And just what a great guy and what a talented guy. Hey, when I was going through the list of my teammates, I wanted to also. I want to save the last for just another comment. The Steve Scaffidi, who has been with us for 7 years. You talk about tough acts to follow. Well, whether it was John McCure following John Green or Vince Vitrano following Gene Miller. Well, following Charlie Sykes is no easy sight either. And Steve has Steve has done it with grace and with good humor. I kind of tease him sometimes because the real Steve Scaffidi is a little bit different than the guy sometimes. I think sometimes he sounds on the radio like he's more of a grouchy old guy than he really is, because he's a wonderful guy. And it's just been my pleasure to listen to Steve develop as somebody who, again, came into this medium as a second job. I've just been thrilled to see, his development as well. So it's just been tremendous. Okay, let's take a quick break. Back with more in a minute, including, yes, some of these people really do exist. Stick around.
Hey, Jeff, Charlie Sykes here. Congratulations on 20 gazillion years on the radio. You and I both know this sort of thing's a lot harder than it looks, but you've been a consummate pro all these years, and I can't wait to hear what you're going to do next, because even though we're old guys now, we're still too young to retire, right? But seriously, Jeff, best wishes for whatever you've got planned. Just don't make it a daily radio show.
First of all, as I said, if you follow me on Twitter, it's at Jeff Wagner Radio, and it's 25 years has gone by in a blink of an eye. It's staggering, and Charlie's been gone for 7 years, and it seems like it was just absolutely yesterday. Time just flies. Well, I promised over the course of the next hour and a half or so, I'm bringing in some people who I've referred to or I've talked to, and yes, they really do exist. And I said this earlier. As I look back on my career, one of the people who's instrumental in getting me started was my first general manager, John Schweitzer, who I not only thank for hiring me, but I thank for not firing me when there was that option. And John joins us in the studio, and you're on the cameras too. John Schweitzer, hi, pal.
Hi, Jeff.
We got to turn him on. Turn on. Okay, there we go. Got it. Okay.
I'll try that again. Hi, Jeff.
Hi, John. All right. You've joined the ranks of the retired general manager at WTMJ. You were in Kansas City. You worked for the Packers, putting together their radio network for a number of years, and now you're kind of enjoying this life, partly a snowbird and partly here as well.
And I highly recommend it. In fact, I brought you. I come bearing gifts. It's that time of year, but This is for your retirement. I'll give you exactly one guess what's in here.
It looks like it could be some golf balls.
Exactly.
All right. Oh, that's very.
And I hope we can use them together.
I would love that. John, let us cycle back to the summer of 1998. You were the general manager at WTMJ, and I know we were looking for somebody to come in and to do a show. And do you remember when I started?
Yeah, I think it had to be toward the end of 1998, I would think.
Full time,
Because I heard you earlier on the air talk about the Dr. Laura exchange and all that. And it was interesting back then because the Dr. Laura people really wanted to keep Dr. Laura on WTMJ because where else, right? TMJ is the biggest stick in the state, as we know. So I was negotiating with them. And meanwhile, in the back of my mind, I thought, boy, I had you in mind as the one person who could bring a local flavor to that time slot. And, we always thought local radio was better than syndicated.
Right.
You proved that when you whipped Rush for those years. So anyway, those were kind of the sort of details. And it was an easy decision. And frankly, probably one of the finest decisions I made was bringing you on full-time in your time slot.
You're going to make me blush. One of the things that I've always appreciated this, and you're the one that I think emphasizes with me, the Milwaukee radio market is different than a lot of markets. We're very parochial, and I don't say that in a bad way. It's just some markets are very transitory. People move in and out every couple of years. I know you always said to me, it takes a while to develop an audience. But if you're doing the right thing and you develop the audience, they're going to stay with you forever. And I jokingly say, but it's also very, very sincere that, the first year or two, we were struggling to try to find an audience. And I know you always used to say, look, I think you're doing the right thing. You will find it. And thank goodness in 2 or 3 years we did.
Yeah. I think one thing you did, Jeff, beyond just improve your show, improve your topics and all that, which you did on your own, the other thing you did was you went out into the market. You went out into Milwaukee and you spoke at Kiwanis clubs. You spoke everywhere anywhere you got invited, and you didn't charge anything for that. You just knew how that was going to be advantageous to your radio show and to your overall brand. And that's what you did so well that I don't know any other talk show hosts who have done it like that.
Yeah, well, that's kind of it's kind of interesting because you're right. Back at the time, Rush Limbaugh was the dominant voice, and I think where a lot of talk show hosts of the era went wrong is they'd start out and they try to be Rush Limbaugh, and there was only one Rush Limbaugh. You couldn't do that. And I decided early on, look, I got to be me, and like to your point, we want to be local. We want to emphasize that. But yeah, I made this decision early on that, and I'm getting emails and texts from all these people. I saw you at the Sheboygan Lions Club or the Kiwanis Club, and we did that. I mean, there were some weeks it was 2 or 3 nights a week, and people would want to pay you, and I didn't want the money. But it's funny. That's how it's retail politics, but it was retail radio. It's meeting people, and they say, "Oh, I would have never listened to him, but I kind of like the guy, and here I'll check it out." And thankfully, some of them stuck.
Yeah, and I think Milwaukee and Wisconsin really, not to overplay it, but they fell in love with you. Yeah. And they loved listening to you. They loved, I mean, think about it, over 25 years, all the things that went on in politics and elsewhere, and you had a chance to talk about every one of them, really, and it was quite amazing. I was thinking today, the only thing more amazing than you being 25 years in one time slot on one radio station is you managed to make me look good, and that was really hard to do.
and I got paid for it too. I mean, it's interesting, John, that and Charlie was just kind of alluding to that in his comments he made. There's a lot of people who think that all radio hosts just you show up and okay, the show starts at noon. You show up at 11:45 and you open the microphone and you just start talking for 2 or 3 hours and maybe there's some people who do that, but I wasn't good enough to do it. I mean, you had to do the research and you had to put in the time because if you don't, the listeners know that right away.
Yeah, they can sense when you're mailing it in, so to speak, and you never did that. And credit to you. And I'm so happy for you and Fran, and looking forward to hopefully seeing you down in a sunnier climate.
Right, and everybody's thinking, and just like you, some people call them snowbirds, but they call seasonal residents. That's what we are. We're seasonal residents. Because I mean, I know just like you, I love it here. You love it here. But a couple months in the winter, there's nothing wrong with that.
No, not at all. I mean, this is our home. My wife Leslie and I, where our kids are still for the most part right around here, and our grandkids. But there's a time to make a dash for Florida, and we've grown to love that, and we really look forward to seeing you guys down there a little bit anyway. Yeah, absolutely. John Schweitzer, thank you for coming on today, but thanks for hiring me, and thanks for sticking with me all those years ago. When I started, I thought, honest to God, I thought I was going to do this for a year or two. If you would have told me 25 years later we'd be having the same conversation, I would have said never going to happen. But thank you, my friend. I appreciate it. Congratulations, Jeff. We're going to take a quick break. Back with more in just a minute. This is Jeff Wagner.
25 years at TMJ. That's amazing. It seems like yesterday you were just running for Attorney General and just getting started in this job. Look, I just want to say this. Jeff Wagner has been a voice of reason, a soothing voice and a respite for people in the afternoons in all of southeastern Wisconsin for a quarter of a century. We're going to miss you. We're going to miss who you are, how you sound, and what you've done for all of us in our community. And take it from me, retirement's a pretty cool thing because there's all these other things you can do with your life. I'm excited for you. Thank you, and God bless.
I actually helped him I did one of his first fundraisers when he was just starting to run for Congress. And I'm trying to think if it was in Racine or in Janesville or wherever. But I mean, you could tell Paul Ryan was a rising star. One of the things about Paul Ryan that is so very, very cool is Paul Ryan is the smartest guy in any room that you will walk into. I'm here to tell you that. But a lot of times, people who are the smartest guys in the room, or gals, smartest guy in the room, a lot of times they let you know that they're the smartest guy in the room. Paul, and it's a gift, Paul is the smartest guy in the room, but he doesn't carry himself in that fashion, and that's one of the things that just led to his success. And I don't know what the future is going to be for him, but he's too talented a guy and too smart a guy to not be involved in some aspect of public policy. Okay, My producer has not had enough to do today other than playing the great get-backs and stuff. So for a segment or so, we've got special guests, like I say, a cast of characters that are going to be coming in over the course of the next hour and 20 minutes or so. But I wanted to prove that I can still do it and give you one more chance. We're going to open up the phone lines. If you've got comments, questions, 855-616-1620. That's the Old National Bank talk and text line. Your last chance to wade in and ask them, because one of our texters said, well, maybe you can just, forget about all this. Come back in Monday and start doing the show. No, I can't forget about this. I'm going to miss this, but as I said earlier, no show runs forever. So if there's a question or comment, you got one final chance to do it. Our number, 855-616-1620. That's the Old National Bank talk and text line. Back with your calls in just a moment.
Pelican here, the final producer of your legendary career, and I just wanted to say that even though it's been short, it's definitely been sweet. What a cool thing for me so young in my radio career to work with you. It's been an absolute honor, and it's an experience that I will cherish for the rest of my career and take with me for the rest of my life as well. You've been so great with me. You've shown me so much. You've shown me exactly what it means to be a pro in this business of radio. And it's kind of funny, on my second day on the job, you officially announced your retirement. So I was brand new and you were winding down, but you were so patient and so kind and generous with me, and I will appreciate that forever. Thank you again so much, and congratulations. Enjoy your retirement. You really deserve it. And hey, stay out of the bunkers.
Number of people are texting, and here's one of the things I'm going to try to do. I am going to, since I'm still going to, I think, have access to the text line and things like that, because WTMJ is not taken away. I'm going to try to answer all these texts. We've gotten hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, and I appreciate it. If you take the time to text, I'm going to try to take the time over the next couple of days to respond to the extent I can. Number of people, man, it's go kind of right to it. What's your golf handicap? Oh, okay, well, I can't even lie about this because I look outside. A couple of my Sunday golf buddies are here, so they're going to immediately know that if I'm not telling the truth, I'm about a 16. But I'm hoping to get it down a little bit when I can play more. Here's one of our emails. Jeff, I want to thank you for keeping me and the rest of your loyal listeners informed and entertained for these last 25 years. I wish you nothing but the best in your retirement, and I personally want to thank you for supporting and reporting on the Wisconsin 9/11 Memorial and Education Center in Kewaskum. The support of WTMJ and your listeners was instrumental in constructing the memorial. That's from Gordon Haberman, who is the father of Andrea Haberman, who passed away in the terrorist attack on 9/11. Appreciate that. All right, let's just take a couple phone calls. Let's talk to Kathy. Kathy, you're on WTMJ. Hello.
Hello there. I am really going to miss you. My brother got me hooked listening to you years ago because he said you were very interesting to listen to and actually make sense a lot of times. I lost him to cancer about 5-6 years ago. And every time I listen to you, I think of him.
Oh, well, Kathy, thank you so very much for listening and for the good wishes. And I'm sorry about your loss. Cancer, for all of us who have lost loved ones to cancer, cancer sucks. And, hopefully sometime they're going to develop a cure. But it's just, I appreciate that very much. Let's talk to Ray in New Berlin. Ray, you're on WTMJ.
Hi, Jeff. How you doing?
Real well, thank you.
I was talking to you Wednesday, and my phone died when we were talking about if somebody endorses you politicians.
Okay, right.
And I've talked to you before when you were buying a new car. Remember when your car got destroyed?
Oh, right, in the flood. Yep.
Dealers.
Sure.
The other thing I was going to say, I want to wish you well and everything. And last time I saw you, remember you used to do the cars at the different places around the city.
Oh, sure, the free ride. Yeah, that used to be our summer promotion. We'd give away cars. We'd give away a car. People would come out. Yep, absolutely. Yeah, no.
And I just want to tell you that I'm a retired truck driver, and I'm 87 years old, and I've been listening to you. I had a little portable radio in my truck so I could listen to you guys.
Oh, that's great.
I just want to wish you well and have a great time. It was nice being able to listen to you for the last 25 years.
Ray, thank you so much. Yeah, we used to do, our big summer promotion was, and people remember, it was the classic free ride, and we'd have a vehicle that we'd give away, and we'd go around to different locations, and people would register, and there'd be one listener that was chosen from each location, and they would, then we'd have a big event. Sometimes it was at the stadium, sometimes it was other places, and you'd end up if you got your name drawn, you won the car. It was very, very cool. One of our texters says, happy retirement to the evil Mr. Rogers. I will tell this story one more time, so please don't roll your eyes if you've heard it before. But it was 2013. It's the first time that the Talkers magazine, which is sort of it together with Barrett News Media, these are kind of like the variety that covers the talk radio industry. And every year, Talkers magazine comes out with a list of their 100 most important talk show hosts in the country. And this includes nationally syndicated people, and they include local talk show hosts and all. And I don't exactly know the criteria, so it's subjective, but it doesn't matter. I made the list for the first time in 2013, and then pretty much stayed on the list from 2015 on. So I think 9 years in a row and 10 years out of the last 11. But after that appeared, there was this very, very liberal website that decided that they wanted to comment on it. Daily Coast. I'm never sure how to pronounce it. And they described me as the most dangerous talk show host in America because most right-wing conservative talk show hosts are yellers and screamers and things like that. But he's not. He's soft-spoken, and he explains stuff. And you find yourself listening, and all of a sudden you're sucked into it, and you find yourself agreeing to him. And then they said, he's the evil Mr. Rogers, and I don't think that was meant as a compliment, but I have always embraced it. And matter of fact, as I as I move into whatever I'm going to do next, I always think, okay, if people want to describe your show, I said, well, to aspects of people on the left, I'm the evil Mr. Rogers. You want to hire me or something like that. So that's always been just a lot of fun. Let's talk to Johnny. Johnny, you're on WTMJ. Hello.
Hey, Jeff. How you doing today?
Good.
Congratulations on your retirement.
Thank you.
Good going with that. Yeah, I've been texting you forever, and I know I got my son also listening to you, so it's another second-generation person.
Thanks.
Along with that, I am a fellow parrot head.
Oh.
And my one particular harbor is Key West and the Green Parrot Bar. And so my wife and I will be going down there again. So that's our one particular harbor. And kind of how I really have gotten to become a friend on the radio with you.
Well, Johnny, thank you for listening. And again, it's if you're ever down there, the Green Parrot Bar, which is right by like the Hemingway House and stuff, just send me an email. My email, WTMJ, has been good enough that's still going to exist. I also have another email, which is jeffwagnerradio@yahoo.com. Let me know, because you never know. Never know when I might pop in there. I love the Green Parrot Bar. I told this story yesterday if you weren't listening. So Fran and I had just gotten married. We were down there on a honeymoon, and we're in the Green Parrot Bar, which is a dive bar. Okay, and I love dive bars, but it's a dive bar. We're in the dive bar, and she's texting her friend Beth back here and saying, "Yeah, we're in this place called the Green Parrot Bar." And all of a sudden, Beth says, "Is that Jeff wearing a red shirt?" Well, it turns out they've got a website, and they've got cameras up there that are focused on the bar. And all I'm thinking is, I'm glad I'm here with my wife. If it was something different, you're up on the internet. So that was the Green Parrot. Let's take a quick break. Back with more in just a minute. Marilyn in Pewaukee. Marilyn, good afternoon.
Well, good afternoon, Jeff. I'm sure going to miss your good voice on the radio and the Friday afternoon contest. Can't you do that remote from Florida once a month or something?
Well, Marilyn, thanks so much for the call. And I think it's one of these things where, like I said earlier, this is a great job. I love it. WTMJ has been wonderful to me. Good Karma Broadcasting has been wonderful to me. But no show runs forever, and it's just time. It's time in my life. It's time, I think, in the progression of the station, and this could not have worked out better. Good Karma has been wonderful to me, and in the timing, we actually decided this, several months ago. And as I said at my retirement thing, the party last night, a lot of times when you're talking to management and you say, and okay, I'm not going to be around in January. A lot of times it's, well, if you're not going to be around in January, that means you're not going to be around in July. And that's not how they handled it. They said, okay, well, let's work out the timing. How do you want to work it? I'm on the payroll for another couple weeks. And they've just been outstanding on so many things. And I can't tell you how much I appreciate that, because there's not a lot of people in this industry that get to do what I've done for as long as I have, and then kind of just, say goodbye and have this chance to talk to you. It's just, this is kind of an unheard of thing, because so many times in the broadcast industry, whether it's radio or television, what happens is there's people who are part of your life, and all of a sudden they're gone, and you go, whatever happened to this person? That's not how Good Karma allowed this to play out, and I appreciate that so very, very much, that we get a chance to say goodbye, and I get a chance to say, oh, you can still reach me on email through the station or the other stuff or the Twitter feed and stuff. That's an opportunity that most people don't get, and I'm very, very grateful for that. Lamar, a regular caller, one more time. Lamar in Orlando. Hello.
Jeff, just want to say, again, congratulations on the retirement. I will definitely miss you on the air. Like I said, I started listening to you in high school, and I've been listening to you ever since. You kind of got me addicted to radio, and it's kind of funny that they call you evil
Mr. Rogers.
Mr. Rogers. Because you have changed my mind a lot of things over the years, and have helped to shape many of my political views and just views overall. But one last quick comment, then a really quick question. Like I said, and I appreciate that you actually remember me just outside of radio. You've watched my progression as far as my career. I appreciate that. And it makes me kind of feel special that a celebrity, actually a celebrity.
A mini celebrity. A mini celebrity. Yeah, you were a bus driver up here, and now you work in the airline industry, right?
That's correct. I'm a pilot now.
Oh,
I'm a pilot now.
Oh, outstanding.
So, yeah, I was. Yep. But anyway, just a quick question. Just curious to know if you're going to be a part of the holiday show. That you guys do every year in the WTMJ.
Yeah, Lamar, thanks for the call. Actually, I don't believe there is a holiday show this year. And I don't. There's not. You're right. For the last 5 or 6 or 7 years, we did that. I think, honestly, partly it's me. I think because I announced my retirement, they had a big going away party for me and things like that. I think this was our big holiday event. So for those of you who love the holiday show, my retirement might have gotten in the way with that. But there's no specific holiday show this year. All right. We have one more hour. We have lots of guests coming up and some final thoughts. So do not go anywhere. We're blowing up the internet with people who are watching us on the streaming service. If you want to see what my beautiful wife looks like, well, got a chance to tune in because I'm putting her on camera. I'm putting some friends on camera. We're back with more in just a couple minutes. This is the Department of Justice. Jeff Wagner, WTMJ. This is it. One more hour. Here's a text, and I'm going to do my best to try to respond to all the texts. Jeff, I'm surprisingly emotional, so I'm not going to call in, but I've been listening to you from 2006 until today, my entire adult life. Your show brought me into the world of current events, local and abroad, and it was my entry point into deeper knowledge of many subjects. Thanks. I don't think it would have ever ended up as such a news junkie and voracious written article reader or otherwise. I often reference your show in conversation. Going to miss your familiar voice. Please don't cut the cord as decisively as Charlie or Gene did. Don't be a stranger and come fill in once in a while. May your next season of life be rich in joys and memories. God bless. That's Laura from Sheboygan. Thank you, Laura. I appreciate it. All right. What we're going to do in this hour of the program is there has been a revolving, over the 25 years, there's sort of a revolving cast of characters because I made the decision to, talk about my life. And in the words of Jimmy Buffett, I freely acknowledge that sometimes there's semi-true stories. There's some stuff I forgot. There's some stuff I make up. But in general, there's a grain of truth to it. But one of the things that there are people in my life who have been on the air, but who are a big part of my life. And we're joined now by two of them. So if you want to see this cast of characters, again, you can tune in YouTube at WTMJ, our channel, or watch live, WTMJ.com. My niece, Sydney, who joins us. Sydney is going to be graduating, hopefully, from law school this spring, American University Law School. But you were born after I started the radio career, and you don't actually remember this, but we had you on as a little girl from time to time, broadcasting remotes from the zoo and things like that. I was exploiting the cute little girl, my niece, for forever. So thanks for coming back for the last day.
Yes, thank you. Happy to be here.
And you hear about him a lot. It is my significantly younger, very, very successful attorney brother, Scott. So thanks for coming down.
Hey, my pleasure. You hear about me mostly in the police scanner.
Oh, no, people will get
It's a
that.
little different.
All right, we tell this story, and I know you've told it before, but this is, you're 7 years younger than I am, and
7.5.
Thanks. And you're asking for advice one day, and I got out of law school, and I'm a lawyer, and you're at Marquette University, and you're a broadcast major, and you had the decision. You decided to ask me for career advice.
It's funny because the way I remember it, I don't remember asking. But I was a broadcasting major because that let me in the College of Speech, so my grades were compared with the basketball players, which I found a much better comparison than the political science I had started. And at that point, I determined I was going to be a broadcaster and had some gig lined up somewhere in Illinois to be a program director. And at that point, without any prompting, as I recall, you said, I can only use some of the words on the air, but don't be an idiot. There's no money in broadcasting. Go to law school. And that I actually listened to you. And usually listening to you has turned out to be a good choice. But as a result, that's what I'm blaming my hairline on.
That's it. So so on many occasions you will say to me, as you're like working 7 days a week, and I've got these clients, I got this brief due, and oh Jeff, you're going back and doing 3 hours on Monday. Oh, you got the weekend yourself. You always say thanks for that advice.
Well, what I say to you is better than what I think about it. So it's all a matter of filtering, which I'm trying to get better at as I age. But you didn't steer me wrong.
Well, I'm glad you kind of feel that way. It's been interesting. I know, and I always apologize for this because sometimes for many reasons, like being my brother hasn't been the easiest thing where you're like, whether it was as a federal prosecutor or as a radio guy, sometimes you get some static for that.
You mean like the time when you would put the judge who I was trying a case in front of his son in jail? That one?
Yeah.
I do happen to remember that, where I seemed to be losing every motion and we couldn't figure out why. And finally the clerk called me over and said, "You realize your brother put the judge's son in jail, right?"
Yeah. Well, sorry about that,
And of course, even now when you're talking about judges and bail, I love appeering in front of them. It's always...
Right.
I refer to myself as adopted. But,
that's exactly it. Yeah,
so do you. So.
Right. So you kind of walk in and say, "Oh yes, we heard your brother talking about that stupid bail that he said that I said on something. Now, what would you like, Mr. Wagner, for your motion?" So, Sydney, how has law school been?
It's okay. It's busy. It's a lot of school. I'm ready to be done. I'm ready to move on. Yeah, it's good.
Do you think now you spent college in San Diego, San Diego State, and then now American University, which is in D.C. And then of course, home is always southeastern Wisconsin. Where do you think you're going to end up?
It's a great question, and I'm still trying to figure it out. I miss San Diego a lot. The weather, the food, the people. But I've also thought about coming back home. But I've also thought about moving somewhere that I haven't been yet. So I don't know. I think I'm probably not going to stay in D.C. though.
Okay.
Yeah.
For the record, I miss San Diego a lot too.
Right. It's great.
It was much more fun to visit there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. But of course, when after college, when you're not on dad's dime anymore, it's kind of a different dynamic, right?
Yes. That's part of the problem. Yeah.
But I'd still like to visit you there.
Okay.
This is a big weekend for the Wagner family because in addition to my last show after 25 years, we got something else going on tomorrow night. Scott, what could that possibly be?
Well, the weather's warm. I think we're going to get 18 holes in during the day.
Okay, and?
I'm getting married. Assuming Kathy doesn't sober up between now and then. It's going to be official. We put the deposit down and everything, so I'm confident it's going forward.
Fran made arrangements to get all the tablecloths and
That's
linens
right.
and stuff. That's we're bringing it down and helping set up tomorrow. So yeah, congratulations. We're very excited to have this wonderful woman join our family.
I am too. She's really great. I can't wait to marry her.
So and then tomorrow, all you got.
Well, that's right. It's coming soon. Again, assuming she shows up, and the Vegas line is 50-50. So.
Right. I don't believe that. Not at all. It's been an interesting. I hope people realize over the years how close you and I really are. It's been. We have. There are there's brothers and there's siblings that sometimes they get along and not. But we've really been very close, and I've appreciated you being such a part of my life for your entire lifetime at least.
Well, as I like to tell the story, I don't like to say good things in front of you, but I assure you I say very nice things behind you. But our father was a difficult man, and in so many ways you were always there for me. is more than just a brother, but I have nothing but love for you, and I'm so grateful you were in my life, and I understand how lucky I am that you were my brother.
I appreciate that a lot. And the other thing, and that's why I wish you and Kathy just so much love because, and so much happiness because your sister-in-law, my late wife Sue, you and Sue had a relationship that was more like brother and sister than brother-in-law and sister-in-law.
Sue was one of my very best friends, and we would talk almost daily on the way back from office, and make fun of you in a loving way. And I wouldn't say what Fran said, that she likes Sue better than you, but it was a close race. But no, Sue was very good to me and very good to the kids, as you know.
And that's why I just wish you the best because I know I always say this. I outkicked my coverage when it comes to affairs of the heart twice because I was just so very lucky to have found Fran and all the friends that she brought in and all that sort of stuff. But, you've been the constant in my life, and I've been just thrilled to watch your career. And I think you've got some more kind of great things to come as time moves on.
I hope so. This is where it ends, but I don't see it ending. But yeah, I hope there's some more good stuff to come. And I think you stole that line about outkicking your coverage with regard to Fran from the speech I gave at your wedding, but that's okay. You can take that.
It could be. I over the last 25 years, I'm sure I've stolen lots of lines from lots of people and kind of passed them off as my own.
Well, there was a time where I stopped saying anything remotely funny around you, just so you wouldn't steal it. Do you remember the time you got me in so much trouble?
Which time would that be?
Sydney is riding with her mother, and we were in Vegas. Can I tell the story? Oh, you're not going to be coming back. I can tell the story. So we're in Vegas at the MGM, and there's a Harley-Davidson wedding going on.
Oh, right.
And all these people see Jeff, and they're like, oh, Jeff Wagner, come join us. So I show up, and thinking I'm funny.
It was a Mexican restaurant.
It was a Mexican restaurant in the MGM.
Yep.
And I turned to my brother, I said, Jesus, everybody knows you here. It's a good thing we're not here with hookers, which is clearly funny. But any other time I had said something funny from you, you would just attribute it to yourself, and you would never give it to me. So I get a call from Sydney's mother because apparently she's listening on the radio as you're telling this story, but suddenly attribute the funny line to me. It said, so my brother said, it's a good thing we're not here with hookers. So Sydney's mother calls me and says, your daughter's in the back seat. She'd like to know what a hooker is.
Well, glad I could help. Glad I could help.
You've been a constant source of joy in my life.
Yeah, that's what I'm here for. Okay, well, I think my wife is buying drinks, so I'll let you guys go. Sydney Wagner, my brother Scott Wagner, thanks for being part of my life, and thanks for being part of the rotating cast of characters on this show over the last 25 years.
Thank you so much, Jeff. You've been a wonderful brother, and I love you with all my heart.
I feel the same way. Back with more in just a minute. We're introducing you to some of the people that have been part of the rotating cast of characters over the years. Now, everybody who has been listening to the program for the last 8.5 years knows that in addition to my beautiful wife, Fran, one of the loves of my life is my little dog, Sasha. And, we cannot travel anywhere without making sure that Sasha has a good place to stay. So I've always started referring to our friend who takes care of her is Sister Pat. And one of the confusing things is people say, I didn't think you had a sister. I just thought you had a brother. I said, no, that's right. I have Scott. So, okay, so then they say, well, is it a nun? I mean, why are you referring to Sister Pat? But Sister Pat, you are here. Welcome.
I am here. Thank you.
and you are actually our friend Beth's sister, correct? And Beth,
correct.
You are here. Yes. You got it. Beth, hit the button there. Let's see. Yes, that's it.
There we go.
There you go. See, that's it. So, and the two of you, Beth, my wife Fran. You guys worked together out in West Bend for years, and you have been very close friends over the years.
We have been. Got to know Fran from Timmers when she ran Timmers.
Okay, so Sister Pat, I talk about Sasha as being like this little, really sweet little dog. Okay, is she a hellion when she's at your place?
She's not a hellion. She sometimes barks a little more than she would need to, but this last time, her dad forgot to bring lamb chop out of the car.
That would be me.
Yeah. And so that didn't go over real well. I bought her 2 toys, and she was afraid of one of them and hated the other one.
That's one of the things I've learned is I used to buy all these toys for the dog. The only two toys the dog cares about is like the squeaky lamb chop,
and her ball,
and these little like plush balls. But it can't just be any ball. It's got to be these like little plush balls that she can put in her little mouth and stuff. So yes, I didn't forget. What happened was it fell out. I blame Fran for this because it fell out of the box.
No, you just don't let that happen again.
All right. Okay, good. And one of the great things, Pat, is that you've actually been a source of information for me because you spent a good portion of your career at the Department of Motor Vehicles.
I sure did. Look at me go, huh?
and then ended up wrapping it up as a driver's tester.
Yes. Oh, lucky me.
that says all you need.
If I go past there now at any time and I see different people that I worked with and I see them going out to, taking people out for their road tests, I'm like, I am so glad I don't have to do that anymore.
Well, okay, there you go. See, retirement is good. Now, Beth, one of the many reasons I wanted to ask you is I always say that like stories that I tell on the radio end up taking a life of their own, and you've experienced that as my friend. But it was sort of interesting because a week or two ago, you and some of your girlfriends were staying at our place in Florida, and I was making the point of how the day starts or something like that. Mm-hmm. And I was talking about how, we had friends that were staying at the place and it was the day you were getting ready to leave. And apparently the washing machine was leaking stuff and all that.
Right.
Yes.
So no good deed goes unpunished. I thought I'm going to hurry in here, get some wash done so the nice cleaning lady doesn't have so much work. And I go back to check on it a few minutes later and I kind of slide through your laundry room because it's flooded.
Oh, something to look forward to.
Yeah.
But anyhow, I appreciated you telling that. And actually, when you hear this, it could be all sorts of things. It could be like the water line's broken. It could be the washing machine's dead. As it turned out, it was just like a 25-cent part or something, just something that was
right.
Well, my wife wants to, he also replaced the hose. Okay, it was a $40 fix, but it doesn't matter. It was a $40 fix. It doesn't matter for all that. But so I was just telling the story, hey, this could have been really bad. The day's starting out okay. It's only a $40 fix. So I told that story, and apparently somebody was listening to the radio and put two and two together and...
Right. So the day after I got back from Florida, we were at a gathering in town, and Dave was talking to a friend of his and said, oh, Beth was just in Florida, and she stayed at Fran and Jeff Wagner's condo, and he said, oh, is she the one that broke their washing machine?
And I sent Beth an email and said, that's nice. They let you stay there for 4 or 5 days and you wrecked the washing machine. Real nice, Beth.
But I'm just saying that's the kind of thing. This stuff all kind of takes on a life of its own. One of the things that's happened to me over the years is I will get, for example, the station got this semi-hostile phone call from a woman saying, tell Jeff Wagner that the Racine County Zoo is not closing. That's just fake news, et cetera, et cetera. And it's this kind of like snippy sort of thing. And tell him, he's got to correct this. Well, I have talked about many things in 25 years on the radio, but I swear, hand in the air, I have never mentioned the Racine County Zoo at all. So, but we get all that. It's obviously somebody somewhere on some radio station did, but it wasn't mine. So, all right. Thanks for watching Sasha all these years. And Pat, I know you are a daily listener, and I appreciate that. Beth, I know you're a daily listener, and thanks for being our friend, even if it means that you get...
And a daily watcher.
And a daily watcher as well.
If I don't have time to watch the whole thing, I at least want to start out and see how you're dressed.
Okay. All right. All the best to you, Jeff.
Okay. Thanks a lot. We're going to take a quick break. Back with much more in just a minute. The Wagner Show rolls on WTMJ.
Thank you for being that rational, warm, and comfortable voice from Milwaukee for all these years. Not only were you a great colleague, but also one of the kindest, most generous people I've ever met. I hope there are many holes in ones for you as you enjoy this next chapter.
I thought we would go directly to the source here because I'm getting a number of texts. How did Jeff Wagner meet his wife? Is it true that Fran was picked out for you by your first wife? So let's go right to this. All right, you've been hearing her as much as you've been hearing me this week. Fran Wagner. Thanks for coming down, sweetheart, and thanks for organizing. We've got a whole group of people that are out there.
We're lucky.
Yeah,
We're lucky with a lot of great friends.
We are, and it's they all adore you. I just get to come along and be Mr. Fran.
That's not true.
Well,
that is not true.
A little bit about. Okay, so I think this is one of the most interesting things, and you are a very, very private person, and nobody. Up until up until me, right? Pre-Jeff, an extremely private person, and nobody knew anything about that. And then all of a sudden, you marry this guy who's got this radio show, and then there are no secrets. I mean, I think my ratings went up because everybody wanted to hear me talk about you because that's the way they knew stuff. How has that been?
It's been, I mean, I go to the grocery store and people comment, it's so wonderful that people listen to you. And I always say it's gracious. People are very kind and love you so much.
Well,
it's going to be hard on a lot of people.
Well, that's...
including me, because I listen to you. Because we don't talk about that stuff at home.
Well, if
you're done when you're done,
right? But if you want, honey, we can do our own version of a radio show and stuff.
I got it. That's good. That's good.
We'll set it up in we'll set it up in the kitchen and stuff. So I know we always tell this, and I say jokingly, my first wife Sue, who you have been just so outstanding about in cherishing her memory and things like that. But you always say that you liked Sue better than you like me.
Well, I worked at River Lane Inn for 30 years, and Jeff and Sue came in almost every Friday, correct, Jeff?
A lot of times, yeah. We were regulars, yeah.
And I dealt with Sue most of the time. I mean, I loved her. I did. I thought she was a great, great, great lady.
Yeah.
And that is how I met you, and then...
Right. One thing led to another, and after Sue passed, you...
It was a while, and then you came out to Timmers, where I finished my career.
Yep.
We were just always... I knew you forever, and I knew Sue forever.
No, that was...
And I knew your family and your friends, because they were all coming in with you, too, so it was really nice.
Well, the thing that among all the many things my life has expanded so much because of all the people that I'm now in your circle. I get to be Mr. Fran, which is a great thing. You're not
Mr. Fran. I listen to you every day.
I'm very comfortable with that. But it's just, people talk a lot about like our place in Florida and stuff, and you've really turned it into a home. And it's just been over the last couple of years. You've just done a great job. And so now it's like, it's so cool. We have, actually like two places.
We do. But you made it easy. You didn't. And my friend Denise, of course, made it easy for us. We did a lot together.
The decorating.
Before he even came down and ordered things together.
So everybody always says, a lot of people say, are you going to move to Florida full time? And we're not moving to Florida full time, right?
Never. We have grandchildren here.
Yeah.
So there is no way that.
Right.
No.
So what's
not do it.
So what's it but for a couple months in the winter?
Oh, at least I would think 4 or 5.
All right.
Sure. As long as you always said I could come back, which was nice.
Oh, absolutely. For the various things.
I do. I come back for the kids' plays or whatever.
Okay, so our life since we've been married is, I get up, I work, I prepare the show in the morning, Monday through Friday. I leave about 10 or whatever time it is, and then I come back at 3. What's it going to be like having me around the house the whole time, not having to get up and get on the freeway and stuff?
You're such a quiet person. I don't even know if you're in a room sometimes.
Is that good or bad?
I think you always are scaring me because you're right behind me or something like that. And I'm going, oh my goodness, you're quiet. You're the quietest man ever that anyone I have ever known. You see,
people are going to think I sneak up on you and stuff like that.
Well, you just are quiet. You're very, very quiet and you like to read, and you go upstairs in your office and you do your homework. I call it as homework. And you love news, so I don't think that's ever going to stop.
Well, maybe what we can do is just like we have like Sasha around her neck. We've got like the little thing that jingles because it's like
that's a good idea. Put a little jingle on you.
Put the bells around my neck so you can tell where I'm coming.
So I'm not
stuff like
jumping because I jump a lot.
I don't want to scare you or anything like that, sweetheart. I love you. Thank you for putting up with me for all these
You were
years.
easy, Jeff. Are you kidding?
Well, I don't
have to put up with it.
That's very well. Okay, they're going to have us back like in a year or two, and we're going to figure out whether that's the
That's
case or
true.
not.
We'll
Right?
see.
We'll see how that is. Okay, back with more in just a minute. The cast of characters. We continue to have the discussion, so stick around.
We're here with hearty congratulations and a couple quick thoughts on your radio career. I have always appreciated your common sense, your authentic approach. You never tried to be something you weren't, and the audience knew it. That's one of the reasons you have been such an important and successful voice in our community and on our station. It has been a real pleasure. It's been an honor being part of your talk radio journey over the years. I join all of your Good Karma Brands teammates in wishing you and Fran all the best. And may I personally just say thank you for being part of WTMJ's amazing legacy.
Gene Miller says, "What the thing about retirement is like every day is Saturday, and it's every day it is 5 o'clock somewhere." You just heard when I started off the program, I was saying thank yous and acknowledgments to people, and I'm glad to bring in Steve Wexler. Steve, as I said earlier, was the program director at TMJ when TMJ first reached out about bringing me over, and then he ran Tucson, came back, and has been our general manager and vice president, all these different titles over the years. But throughout decades, you have continued, Steve, to put me on the air, not only put me on the air, but let me stay on the air. And I wanted to say a public thank you for all that.
Well, Jeff, the thanks is for you, actually, because you earned all that. I mean, in this business, as you've mentioned a couple times today, people tend to come and go. And there are voices we get to know and people we get to know, and then one day they leave for a variety of reasons. Your ability to connect with the audience and with the community over 25 years, and actually more than 25 years, right, in the market, that's pretty special. And so I just wanted to, my wife Amy and I wanted to stop in and just thank you for everything you've done, not only on the air, but as I told you the other day, as a manager of a big company that's got lots of different personalities, knowing that Jeff Wagner was holding our brand, knowing that Jeff Wagner was representing us, I always felt so good about that. I never worried about that. I always was very proud that you were wearing the WTMJ logo. So I just want to thank you for all of that and tell you how much I personally and professionally appreciate you.
Well, that's very kind of you. It's just been an honor. And I just, I think people don't give you enough credit for really, I think, revitalizing spoken word radio. I am a huge believer in spoken word radio and our ability to connect. Steve, since I announced some retirement, especially this last week, I'm getting literally thousands of texts and emails, and it's people who've been listening all these years. It's people who are listening overseas, and it's people who are listening in different states. There's something about radio, I think, that distinguishes it from any other medium, really, in the way they connect.
Well, it's personal, right? I mean, in a world where content is everywhere, it's available now at the flip of a switch on your phone and everywhere else. Your ability to break through and connect with people by being personal, by being vulnerable, by taking the complicated issues of the day and distilling them for people. AI can't do that. It can mimic it, but it can't do that. Personalities on the radio or on audio platforms, they can. And I think you're one of the examples of that. And, you know my history. I've believed that since I was a teenager and walked into WTMJ, and I grew up with that. And so that belief has carried me through my management career. And it's one of the reasons it was never difficult for me to not only support what you were doing, but be excited about what you were doing, because you have been and are a great example of that personal connection between the audience, the fans, and the people that are on the radio.
I know, and I always want to apologize for this, because I know for all my managers, and it's not just for me, but a lot of times those phones ring.
Yes.
And it's people.
Yes.
You know where I'm going with
Yes,
this.
I do.
And it's people are going, did you hear what Jeff Wagner or Charlie said? Did you hear what that person said?
Oh, yeah.
And you get that hostile stuff. And I've always respected this, because I never got called into an office or said, Jeff, you gotta stop this because you've just hacked off, Betty in West Dallas.
Yeah, have we ever come to you and just said, hey, Jeff, if you could just tone that down?
Never.
Right? Because to me, once you do that as a manager, what have I done? Basically, you're taking the brush out of the hand of the painter. You're the painter. It's yours. If we don't trust you and your painting, then we shouldn't employ you. So to actually have somebody like Jeff Wagner on, and then for me or anybody else to say, hey, Jeff, if you could say this instead, or if you could lean this way or that way, to me, that sort of defeats the whole purpose of having a Jeff Wagner on. So for me, when I would get those inevitable calls, get that guy off the radio, what is it, the evil Mr. Rogers.
Yeah.
Get evil Mr. Rogers off. My response was always, hey, thank you for your feedback. I appreciate that. By the way, Jeff's job is to call it the way he sees it. And as long as I knew that you were doing your homework, which you did, that you were an ethical person with integrity, which you are, I never had a second guess, never a doubt about supporting what you had to say on the air. And then I would get the inevitable, well, do you agree with everything you hear Jeff Wagner say? And I'd say, well, that's actually not the point.
Right.
It doesn't matter whether I'm in agreement or not. Jeff connects with his audience in a way that very few do, and that's the reason you've been so successful. And it's the reason that you're so beloved to this day, Jeff.
Well, and just for people who understand how difficult that was, there was a long period of time where our ownership structure was, you had you had the radio and TV stations, and you had like the local newspaper.
Yes.
For people who remember, there were times that myself and Charlie would, on occasion, comment on
occasion. You mean 3, 4, 5, 6 hours a day is what you mean
on the local newspaper. And I always thought, that might be interesting when Steve's at the luncheon with I don't know, all the editors from the newspaper.
Oh, the chairman of the company and the head of the newspaper. Yeah, and I'd walk in the room as part of the Journal family, and they'd look at me and go, "Oh, that's Wagner's guy, or that's Sykes' guy walking in." Yeah, those were some interesting conversations.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you sticking with it, and actually one of the things that I know that the chairman of the company, Steve Smith, was always a friend and a supporter. So that was always, I always figured you had my back and Steve.
I did, and I'll share this story that I'm sure Steve would appreciate, because there were those times in the Journal company where the newspaper and the broadcast divisions, though we were co-owned, we didn't see eye to eye on anything, on just the business model and all the rest. And there were these times where somebody would go to Steve, our chairman, and our mutual friend, and say, hey, how can you let Jeff Wagner say these things about what's in the newspaper? And Steve taught me something very important, because he would look at them and he'd say, well, I don't know, if Jeff says something you don't like, then answer him back. Compete. He never once, Jeff, said to me, hey, can you get Wagner to maybe knock it off? Not once. So it was easy for me to be supportive because of my belief in you and because we've been blessed with excellent leadership over the years.
Steve Wexler, thanks so much for being my friend and my boss and all these things over the years.
Congrats, Jeff. I'm proud of you.
When we come back, well, one more segment and the final Get Out of Dodge song. Lots of people have been wondering, what is the going away song? That's coming up in about 8 minutes. Stick around.
It's been amazing working with you, learning how to do radio, learning how to produce, making all the fabulous imaging that you've worked with for the past year or so. And I wish the best for you in your retirement, whether it's just taking it easy or getting back into being a lawyer. All the best. Love you.
This is just about it. I'm looking out of our window here at our studio, and we have a large gathering, so many family and friends, and I know my wife is going to say, well, you didn't mention all the people who are down here, and I know, but I want you all to know you're a very special part of my life, and I appreciate you allowing me to be part of your life. It's been just an absolutely, wonderful career. And, I've been, again, having lots of opportunity to think back once I made the decision to move into retirement. And this program's been blessed. Lots of awards over the years and lots of recognition and lots of good wishes from everybody. And I appreciate it more than I can tell you. It's just you don't get an opportunity to do something that you love in the community that you grew up in and do it for 25 years. I mean, I never, ever dreamed that it would last this long. And I remember the first day I walked into those studios at WTMJ and cracked open that mic, and I thought, my gosh, this is just this amazing thing. I cannot believe that I'm going to be able to do this. And 25 plus years later, I still feel absolutely the same way. I cannot tell you, again, how much all of you have meant to me. And the truth of this is you don't get to last in this market. You don't get to last in any medium doing this unless it's the support of listeners and fans and supporting our advertisers and all this. And I've been just blessed in my life to have a good group of a wonderful group of colleagues and teammates and management from over the years and advertisers. But none of it happens without those of you who are listening. And I appreciate it and I treasure you more than I can possibly mention. So we have reached that point where I wish you well. From the perspective of the Jeff Wagner Show on WTMJ, it's goodbye. It is farewell. It's amen. Thanks for coming with me on this wonderful ride for the last 25 years. And as I always say, when it comes to your radio listening, I know you've got a lot of different choices. I cannot tell you how much I appreciate you spending the last 25 years with me. God bless everybody. Jeff Wagner, WTMJ Radio. Everybody, thank you. Everybody, thank you. This could not have gone better. It means a lot to me. I appreciate each and every one of you. I wish everybody nothing but good wishes and good spirit and continued success moving forward. I know as you move into WTMJ 2.0, it's an exciting time, and I'm going to be listening. And, I might comment from time to time as well, so, but in a nice way. So thanks again for everything. We'll see you up the aisle, around the aisle. Outstanding. Yeah.
You're going to get a bunch of baggage from doing radio. Here it is.
Oh, well, that's good. It's all nice stuff. You edited it. Because if I put it up in the...
This is going up and we went nice, so...
This is going up in my office, so I will think of everybody from time to time. It's just been a wonderful ride. It's just been a wonderful ride. Can't tell you how. And you would have... 25 years, trust me on this, goes by in a blink of an eye. It just... goes by in a blink of an eye. It's been my honor to work with all of you. So thanks again. Thank you. I think my wife has 3 drink tickets if anybody wants that.
Jeff, any last comments on the hop?
Now I'm going to keep my opinions to myself. I don't have opinions anymore. I'm just,
It'd be great to see you and Fran on the hop leaving downtown.
Nixon style?
That would actually be a cute video.
That would be pretty good. Yeah, you're thinking about it.
Dylan, you gotta go follow him and Fran's in the hop.
Are you kidding me?
I think the lit sign on the front says "Congrats, Jeff."
Okay, I'm gonna leave all this stuff here. Thanks again. Anybody wants a drink on me? Keep in mind, I'm now retired on a fixed income. I think we can handle it for one more day. The good karma paycheck came in today.